Welcome to the chaos sector. We re-enter the Matrix, unplugged. In our previous episodes, we discussed technology. Now we break down social-political news. Recently, there was a story of an individual who went into a Nashville school and murdered 6 people. The number 6 is symbolic, but also the number of each victim was also symbolic. In the report, they claim 3 children were killed and 3 adults. This equals 6 in total, but it also represents the number 33, which is symbolic for Freemasonry. This is not a coincidence, this is all strategically scripted. It's quite pathetic to be honest, constantly plastering out their symbolism. Some are unaware, and some know it's symbolic. But for the most part, nobody actually cares. So you ask yourself, why do they keep doing it? Well, it's a part of their rituals, but the incident itself is the main objective. There are a few aspects of this hoax we will focus on. Apparently, individuals are capable of just purchasing weapons, no vetting process, entering public buildings without any resistance from law enforcement, and kill children? No matter how much they try to traumatize the viewers with body cam footage or surveillance from that school of the so-called mass shooter, it's not real. Another psychological operation. Surveillance footage shows Lady Rambo entering the school. Upon entrance, she shoots out the glass of the doors, then proceeds to enter the building. No security guards outside the school, no police officers outside the school, and in the video footage provided, it's only Lady Rambo walking through the building, so-called looking for victims. When gunshots are heard at an elementary, the adults are required to protect, I repeat, protect the children. Why haven't they provided teachers with firearms? Or at least tasers, or pepper spray? The political debate about gun rights contradicts itself every time, as it's better to have firearms for self-defense in such so-called mass shootings than to be a sitting duck. In these hoaxes, they don't even address the incidents in the proper manner neither. No law has been discussed about being passed, nor will it ever be, that teachers should be provided firearms or some sort of self-defense weaponry in case of an emergency. I would suggest non-lethal handguns or tasers. You will not see this discussed, rather the attack on gun rights and the transgender aspect. Of course the mainstream media will not show anyone being murdered. Well, they would have to create an actual Hollywood movie and have the children rehearse as they are shot with gummy bear bullets. Oh, that's hard? That's offensive? How about using children to strum the heartstrings of the public in thinking children were murdered? Children should be off limits, but they use children because the adult crisis actors, from victims to family members, are starting to lose their believability. Children are unaware of such an impact, they lack the knowledge of the world and its corruption. But adults are fully aware of this corruption, so it's harder for them to convince anyone because they can't capture the emotions required to dupe the public regarding a mass shooting or any other fake tragedy. We see it all the time, parents screaming and sobbing, but no real tears are flowing down their faces. The more adults are plastered in front of those cameras, the more society starts to reject it, convinced they are crisis actors. So the go-to strategy in the opposition's playbook is to use children as victims. And it's also a shield against public criticism. So if you have followed, children are always brought about to reset or rewire the brain in the matrix. Sandy Hook anyone? So, the more convincing demographic are children, as they always strike a delicate nerve with society. This so-called transgender is actually a real woman who just wanted her 15 minutes of fame. Some believe it's a male pretending to be a female. Examining a few photos, the hair and hairline, the skull structure, the brow bone structure, the jawline, the chin, the eyes, the lips, this is a biological woman. Despite dressing like a male, you can't hide your feminine attributes. But for some reason, she identifies as a transgender male? Why would she do that? I guess to create more fuel to the fire of mass shootings, hey? Doesn't matter, it was not real anyway. All of a sudden her photos are plastered all over social media, and the mainstream media will do their job in giving her that fame. Apparently, her motive was revenge. Revenge? This person was reported to be 28 years old. What revenge would a 28-year-old feel the need to get against a freaking elementary? Nothing, it's not even realistic, even for a quote, crazy person. A crazy person would not have a chance to even purchase the weapons used in the damn hoax. They would be denied this opportunity in a split second. So, no motive based on revenge, because revenge would come from an actual kid at the school, rather than a grown-ass woman. It's all about narcissistic personality disorder, individuals who are tired of feeling invisible in society. Narcissists come in many forms, one that is confident, and those who lack confidence. Both seek approval, they seek some sort of recognition in their social setting. These individuals make the perfect candidates for such mass shootings, or any other hoax that grabs national headlines. What better way to affirm oneself by national recognition, right? You become the talk of the town. But it doesn't last long. By the next month, nobody will care about this person, nor Nashville. As with all psychological operations, there is a political component. I believe that component is about gun rights. And due to the individual claiming to be transgender, this will definitely cause tension politically. The attention-seeking buffoon, Marjorie Taylor Greene, just couldn't help herself, as she blabbered on Twitter about the incident. She represents the pro-gun rights group, and also, condemns transgenders. So you get a 2-for-1 political mudslinger with this puppet. You have to understand, the United States Congress employs these people. They are nothing more than low-level Hollywood actors and actresses. Pretending, or acting a role out, as politicians. Think about it. I do not agree with the lifestyle or belief that one is the opposite sex they are biologically. Yet, there is no need to slander an individual based on being transgender. What political mudslinging does is create a boogeyman persona of transgenders from the right, but enables very disturbing behavior within that transgender community from the left. They both are at fault, and nothing will resolve the issues in that community but truth and acceptance. Let's just leave it at that. In one photo, the so-called mass shooter is wearing a Transformers sweater. All scripted to symbolically carry out the role as a transgender mass shooter. Why would they wait until they were 28 years old to, quote, get revenge? Certainly, this mass shooting would have happened around 18 years old, right? We can suggest that she is about 15 to 17 years old in this photo. She would have waited about 10 years before getting her revenge? Revenge for what exactly? Remember, the reports claimed that she sought revenge at the school. She left behind a manifesto, but no details of the revenge in that manifesto? Let's say she was bullied for being an unattractive female. Understandable, but the problem is, those classmates and students are no longer there, they're adults just like she is. So, why didn't she track them down and seek revenge on them individually? Unless those bullies are still there, in the form of school staff, right? But if this were the case, why didn't she notify her parents and confront the school about it? It would have been resolved. So this eliminates the revenge factor unless it was something sexual, such as sexual assault from one of the staff members that she never told anyone about. The reports claim she left behind a manifesto, and ironically, the trans community stated it shouldn't be disclosed because it would somehow have, quote, serious consequences. The trans community shouldn't have a problem with that manifesto being released, nor do they have the authority to prevent it. If transgenders want to be treated equal as anyone or everyone else, then we have to also hold them accountable when they commit such a crime, right? So, they shouldn't feel the need to speak out in protecting the manifesto, since it's just someone who committed a horrible crime, right? But, they are adamant about keeping it sealed from the public, which suggests the trans community wants to protect one of their own, despite committing such a massacre? Now all of this is within the matrix, so don't get swept away. We are unplugged, so we don't suffer from amnesia in the matrix. Text messages were released, where she claims to, quote, not want to live anymore, unquote. If she doesn't want to live anymore, why didn't she commit suicide? She seeks revenge, and doesn't want to live anymore? All conflated nonsense, drumming up a background of their puppet. All garbage rhetoric, which will of course take place in mainstream media panel debates. Damage control for the psychological operations, as the federal government, specifically the FBI, are always behind these so-called mass shootings. They provide the weapons, which are not real, they provide the fatigues, they provide the script. Soon after, the mainstream media reports another mass shooting has occurred. Photos of that individual are plastered all over the place, and society has something to be distracted with, once again. They make her a celebrity, at the expense of using children being killed in a hoax. Disgusting. It's obvious, another fake mass shooting, nothing more. They have a photo of her at a gun range a year prior. Before the so-called shooting, she repeatedly trained at local gun ranges. Now get a load of how this photo even came about. Apparently, a woman saw the so-called shooter at the gun range and said she got such a bad feeling from the woman in the hat that she stepped out of the room and snapped the photograph. Quote, "I was like, there's something weird here. I was just thinking, if something was to happen, I need a picture of this person." Unquote. Nearly a year after taking the picture, the woman said she saw the video of the shooter wearing her hat backwards during the shooting and recognized her. All garbage filth. But, what did she mean by, if something was to happen? Like what, a mass shooting at a school? If you had such a bad feeling, why didn't you notify the employees at the gun range? Since you took a photo, why didn't you notify the authorities of this potential dangerous person? What did you do with that photo last year, when you spotted her at the gun range? This is alleged to be in April of 2022, and the so-called mass shooting happened March of this year. So, you just held onto a photo of a suspicious individual at a gun range, without notifying authorities? Surely, if you did, the mass shooting wouldn't have happened. So even in the hoax's reality, she is actually held accountable, because she didn't report this to authorities about a potential suspect all of last year. But at the same damn time, felt the person was so suspicious that she took a photo of her? Get the entire fuck out of here. Without doing any of this, we know it's simply a photo used to build up the script, with a background story. In fact, the photo may have been taken the same fucking day of the hoax. That's how insane these people have become. This is a prime example of the old saying, running around like chickens with their heads cut off. Meaning, the opposition is just throwing out any and everything at this point. Since we all know the federal government agencies spy on the average citizen, we also know that they keep track of citizens who purchase such weapons, right? Every sale of firearms goes into a database that provides information on the citizen who purchased the firearm, such as name, age, city, state, address, occupation, and even family. You can find out about someone's relatives based on having their name, and this can be done as a normal citizen. So what do you think the federal government does with this information? My point, the FBI, CIA, and even the NSA all knew about this person before they drove up to that school. Meaning, they knew she was up to something based on her purchase of the assault rifle in the weapons database. Do not believe that the purchase of weapons is not tracked by the federal government, because it is. If you doubt this, let's put it into perspective. If a social media platform collects and sells your personal information to third-party companies, which is a violation of your privacy, do you believe the federal government, which spies on its citizens, wouldn't keep track of a citizen's purchase of a firearm? Especially an assault rifle? With that being said, there is no possible way she could shoot anyone because she would get a call from the FBI regarding her purchase of the assault rifle. As always, pick your poison. Either the FBI allowed the mass shooting to take place, or they scripted up another fake mass shooting. Let's just go with the latter. Nothing more here, she, it, or whatever, got her, or, got its, whatever, 15 minutes of fame. And we didn't mention its name because the mainstream media has already conditioned society to search them throughout social media. We're not giving them that luxury. I hand it over to my colleague, they have a bit to say.
Great analysis, let me chime in. Simply put, nobody cares anymore. Truthers know it's fake, the average citizen doesn't put much thought into it, even if they believe it's real, and the political component is always the main focus. These psyops are about pulling the quote, compromised, out of a social setting, and giving them a moment in the national spotlight. Now, this is where the problem lies. Without the willing participants, psyops cease to exist. But there is always a trinket dangled in front of the subject, to convince them to participate. We live in a society where individuals feel they need to be attached to the machine. That machine will only drain your soul. This person could have done something positive, but instead, she decides to give her soul to the machine, for a brief moment of bliss. Ignorance is bliss, as we say. Do you guys remember that scene in the first Matrix film, at the dinner table? The steak is not real, but the brain is conditioned to believe it's real, so you enjoy the taste of an illusion. The taste of an illusion. This is the problem in the Matrix. People who give in to the machine, accept living in a reality that's one big illusion. The most effective way to manipulate, or convince a people, is through their personal lives. By way of financial assistance, or any other material benefit that convinces a people to oblige. It's easy to see what her problem was. She felt neglected in her social setting, perhaps, based on her physical appearance. Maybe she felt ignored by the opposite sex. When someone feels disregarded by the opposite sex, this leads to depression, lack of confidence, anxiety, and even anger. Not to generalize, but we have to factor this into the reason one decides to become a transgendered person. For that matter, all other sexual orientations. Yes, we have to address that element. No offense to anyone. Now this is a woman who identifies as a man. But, in the news report, they initially claimed it was a woman who had committed the so-called mass shooting. Then, they politically corrected themselves, by referring to her as he or him in later reporting. Now why would they do this? Apparently, the trans community was offended on, well, his behalf, as they did not respect the identity of the mass shooter, with referring to him as her. All nonsense, political garbage. Let me also address her life outside of the mainstream headlines. As mentioned before, these individuals who participate in government hoaxes become prevalent in their social settings. Which means, their social setting is also associated with the hoax. In the mainstream media's coverage, they are depicted as infamous, or cold-hearted murderers, right? But in their social setting, which you, yes you, will never know about, they are celebrated. The mainstream media presented their mass shooter, but where she resides, those people are all enjoying life. Participated in a government exercise, were compensated, and proceed to go about their daily lives. That is the same reality as you, but they enter the matrix, and created another reality, presented to you via this national story. They are in and out of the matrix, manipulating society's perception of what is real and what isn't. The participants are not the brains behind that, of course, that would be the architect. Meaning, the matrix continues to grow rapidly, as individuals give in to the machine. Before you know it, there aren't too many people left in society who are not programs. Programs, or individuals who are, well, programmed, instructed, commanded, to carry out an objective. They don't question it, they don't refuse at midpoint, they do what they are told. They are classified as drones, who simply do what they are told to do. We know these individuals as crisis actors. Agents, on the other hand, are individuals who have the ability to disrupt the matrix itself. Such as the mainstream media, law enforcement, federal agents, politicians, even alleged normal citizens in society, who are actually covert government agents. They tell the drones what to do. Morpheus states, people will fight to protect the machine, even in death. Money is not really the reason, negative. Although it's an incentive, it is more about protecting the machine. Protection means there is something that can be exposed or destroyed. And that requires protection. The drones protect the agents, and the agents protect the machine. And the machine protects the truth. Let's see if they can protect that truth from the chaos sector.